Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for joining me on this snowy afternoon. Today, we're going to be doing a video that has been a long time coming for me. This is going to be a reflection, overview of my time living, working, and shooting with this gun right here, which is the Staccato P. So I got this gun about 6 months ago, and in that time I've put about 11,000 rounds on it, and I've had a fantastic time doing it. So we're going to talk about my experiences with this gun, and in particular my experience going to a 2011 type pistol from something more like this, the Glock. So when I first started taking pistol shooting more seriously, I was shooting this gun right here. This is a Generation 5 Glock 17, internally stock, with a Jaegerworks F7 slide on here. This is a really awesome gun. It's probably the last pistol I would ever get rid of. And with this gun, I reached a pretty high level of shooting ability. I shot this gun for a couple years, like non-stop. It probably has a little bit north of 20,000 rounds on it, would be my estimate. I started out with a more basic plastic gun, which is what I recommend to people in general. And after a little while, I started to get curious about more high-performance pistols, in particular, the 2011 type guns. So I purchased this Staccato P in August of last year, directly from the Staccato website for full price. No review, anything happened with this gun. I just bought it for myself from Staccato directly on their website, and I waited for it to be built and sent to me. Going from a more basic gun that requires you to do a little bit more to a more high-performance pistol that is a little bit more forgiving will teach you quite a lot about your shooting ability and the fundamentals of shooting a handgun. So let's get straight into that. Something that you'll hear a lot about 2011s or Staccatos in general, something that I think Staccato says sometimes in their own marketing material, is that a pistol like this will make you a better shooter. Is that the case? No. In some cases, I would argue that it will do the opposite. However, if you hand a new shooter, somebody who's never shot a pistol before and has a basic understanding of how to align the sights and press the trigger, or even worse, somebody who already has a little bit of shooting under their belt but they don't have the fundamentals down really at all, the Glock is going to be significantly harder for them to shoot, and they will do significantly better on any kind of timed or standards-based exercise with something like a 2011. Why is that the case? Well, for something like the Glock, show clear for all you YouTube RSOs there. The trigger on the Glock is going to be quite long in its movement and quite heavy in its pull. That, mixed with the lighter weight of the gun, is going to make the recoil pretty jumpy, and the time and effort required to press the trigger quite a lot more than something like the Staccato. So that mixture generally doesn't do well for shooters who are a little bit less experienced or less inoculated to like the recoil impulse on a 9mm handgun. You're gonna find people pretty often will be flinching, over engaging their firing hand, or anticipating the recoil pushing down kind of from the shoulders on something like the Glock. With the Staccato, you have a much softer recoil impulse because the gun weighs significantly more. And the trigger on the Staccato, of course, is probably what you already know about this gun. If anything, is that the 2011 type pistols have essentially the best triggers available. The trigger on the 2011 is very short in its movement and extremely light in its break compared to something like the Glock. So that Glock, you know, with 20K rounds on it, pulls around 4.5 to 5 pounds on the break. The Staccato, the way I have it set up here, is about 3 pounds, and the movement is only about 2 millimeters. So this is significantly easier to press the trigger straight to the rear and have the shot go where you want. I do strongly recommend that you start with something like the Glock and not the 2011. I'll probably do a whole video on this sometime. I really strongly believe in starting with a basic pistol. So any of your 9mm Glocks, the 17, 19, 34, 45, 47, whatever 9mm Glock, you know, speaks to you, or a Smith & Wesson M&P, or a CZP-10, or a Walther PDP, something like that. A simple gun that is reliable, easy to maintain, and a little bit less expensive than something like a 2011, so that you can buy a bunch of ammo and go learn to shoot the gun well. That is what I recommend to most people if you're getting started and you want to get really good at shooting. But how about somebody like me, where I already kind of have a pretty good foundation of pistol shooting ability with something like the Glock, transitioning to the 2011? What was that like? The first observation I really remember making when I first started shooting the Staccato was I need to train myself to do less. When I'm shooting the Glock, I'm really putting in a lot of conscious effort to sort of wrangle it. I'm using a lot of force with my control hand, and I'm really paying attention to pulling the trigger straight to the rear with finesse. Something like the Glock will demand more of you. You need to be a little bit more focused on those fundamental pieces. The Staccato is significantly less demanding, right? That's why a newer shooter would have picked this up and do better with it. So I had to really focus hard on clamping with my left hand and only pressing the trigger with my right hand, and that is it. Give it a solid base to recoil on, and it will just track like a sewing machine. This gun shoots really, really well. And that, of course, is something that none of you are surprised to hear. The Staccato shoots better than the Glock, 100%. It is significantly easier for me to shoot this gun fast and accurate at, predictive, practical paces than the Glock. It's also much easier for me to shoot something like this in a USPSA type practical shooting competition setting because the gun basically just runs on autopilot. I'm just, clicking the mouse button and driving the gun around with my support hand, and I can focus a lot more on my arrivals into positions, moving in and out, being able to, move and shoot at the same time. All that is significantly easier on the Staccato than something like the Glock, for sure, 100%. So let's talk ergos real quick. In terms of going from the Glock to the 2011, you have a couple new things to consider. So this is a hammer-fired gun, of course, with a thumb safety and a grip safety. The grip safety, I don't really care one way or the other. If this gun did not have a grip safety, I think I would maybe prefer it, but I don't really ever think about the grip safety at all. I know a lot of people will take like a Ranger band and just pin it. I don't really care. It doesn't really affect me that much. The thumb safety, for me, this was really not a problem getting used to the thumb safety. Coming out of the holster, taking it off on your way up, putting it back on safe as you go back into the holster. That has been no problem at all for me, coming from a gun where you are not required to do that. It's very fast and simple. I will also give a compliment to the Staccato. The engagement and disengagement of the thumb safety is really, really nice. It's very tactile. It has just the right amount of resistance. I have worked with some 2011 type pistols and some 1911 type pistols that have really, really kind of gritty and gross thumb safeties, but the Staccato has been really amazing for that. So shout out to the thumb safety on the Staccato P. Another thing that I've really enjoyed about my time with the Staccato P is the reloads, actually. It's kind of an interesting thing to touch upon, but so on something like the Glock, you have the slide catch lever right there in reach of your thumb for, a person with whatever regular size hands. So the protocol there is to drop the magazine out of the gun, feed your next one in, and then hit that slide catch lever with your thumb, all kind of in one movement, and then you're ready to go back in business. The Staccato is going to be different in that the slide catch lever is quite a bit farther forwards than where your firing hand thumb is going to land. Your firing hand thumb is on the safety there. Your slide catch lever is pretty far up front. So the traditional way to do this would be to put the magazine in and then hit the slide catch with your support hand thumb. So it's a 1, 2, 3. Which is, I think, really cool. I really, really like the rhythm that you kind of hit that slide catch lever with. I think it's very fun. And that can be a valid reason for liking a gun or wanting a gun, is just because you think it's cool or you think it's fun to work. It feels really cool to do the reloads and everything. That can be a valid reason that you like it. While we're on the topic of ergonomics, let's speak about something that I dislike on the Staccato, and the main reason for the 2 modifications that I've made to this pistol. So that is going to be the size of the grip. The stock Staccato 2011 frames here are extremely rotund. They are cylindrical AF and very uncomfortable for me to hold and work with. So I have smaller hands. One of the first things I did was I put in an order for one of these right here. This is an Extreme Shooters grip. It's quite expensive, and it took a very long time for my order to be fulfilled, but it did get here, and this is significantly better. The Extreme Shooters grip is reduced in size from the stock grips, and it is stippled in this interesting dragon scale texture, which I really, really like. It's very evocative of the STI tree bark grips. I like the vibe. And it is smaller and way more comfortable for me to get a grip on this Extreme Shooter's grip as opposed to the Staccato original big thicky boy. The other part of that equation for me was changing the trigger. You can see in here I have a Atlas Gunworks X-Line short flat trigger. Those two modifications made the Staccato way more comfortable for me and allowed me to shoot it way better. So if you have smaller hands and you're interested in the Staccato or interested in a 2011, the Staccato P or the XC or something like that, the grips are really big and the triggers are kind of long for small-handed people. I think you'll be much happier with a setup like this or a gun that will have these options from the factory. The finish on this has been ridiculously good. I mean, this is a gun that has 11,000 rounds on it, and it's not like I'm just standing on the line, you know, just blasting mag after mag after mag, although I do that sometimes. But I'm coming in and out of the holster. I'm shooting competitively and practically. I mean, there's like almost no holster wear on this slide, maybe a little bit up here that I can see on these like little chamfer sections, but overall, I mean, the DLC coating is incredibly durable on these things. I would believe that this gun came out of the box a week ago and has been shot once. So I'm incredibly impressed on the coating on the slide. I also do have the DLC coating on the barrel. That's the only other option I paid for on the Staccato website, is to get the black DLC barrel. I think that just looks better, and I'm glad I did because it has held up in exactly the same way as the DLC coating on everything else. Okay, so finally, let's talk reliability. This is a part of shooting the Staccato that I had some preconceived notions about. I was expecting to trade a little bit of the performance of this gun for some reliability. I'm expecting this gun to, you know, once it gets dirty, to have a few failures to feed or a failure to eject once in a while. Although this is, you know, the more reliable 2011 type pistol that they do make. They market it to law enforcement agencies and all that, of course. I was not prepared for how reliable this gun has been. In 11,000 rounds of shooting this gun with, I think 5 different Staccato mags that I have now, not one time has this pistol had a failure to feed, or a failure to eject, or a failure to extract. No feeding and cycling related malfunctions at all in 11,000 rounds. That is pretty good. That is pretty good for a gun that performs this well. I was not expecting it to be so reliable, and I'm very pleasantly surprised that it has been so good. It has not been 100% in all ways. The problems that I have had with this gun are hammer follow. Damn it. And what that is when you're shooting, instead of the hammer falling all the way down and hitting the firing pin, sometimes it will fall to half cock, a position like that, and you'll have to just sort of thumb the hammer back and then go back in. These hammer follow problems were happening pretty persistently for me after I switched the trigger. So these Atlas Gunworks trigger, it is the trigger shoe and the trigger bow. The bow is what interacts with the firing components in the gun. I don't know all the exact terms, but the connection on the trigger bow from the Atlas Gunworks trigger and the internal components on the Staccato were not hitting exactly reliably, especially when I'm splitting this gun really fast, you know, like 1.5s to 1.3s. At SHOT Show, I talked to the guys at Atlas Gunworks and they gave me some recommendations on how to reshape the trigger bow, and I did that and it has totally fixed the problem. So the only reliability problems that I've had with this gun are due to an aftermarket part that I switched in. So again, W for Staccato, but disclaimer, if you have those small hands and you are thinking about switching that trigger to a shorter one, do realize that you can be inducing some reliability issues by switching those parts. In a gun like this, it's a little bit more likely that you're gonna throw off some of the timing, and some of the connections between the parts are not gonna be exact as they were from the factory. But with you know, the stock trigger, never had a problem, and once I've reshaped this trigger bow, it is running 100%. So reliability on the Staccato has been honestly beyond what I expected, so I've been really, really impressed. There is one other failure that I want to touch on, and that is going to be with the optic mounting plate. About a month and a half ago, I was getting ready to actually film this video. I was doing some shooting, thinking about what I wanted to say about the gun, and as I was shooting, the 507 comp dot that I have on this gun right now came off the slide and fell onto the ground. That was a first, actually, for me. Upon investigation, the optic plate here, the threads on the inside of the optic plate had totally sheared off. So the hollow sun screws were fine, the dot was fine, but the Staccato plate was kill. It was dead. What does that tell me? I am 95% certain that that failure was my fault. So I have switched a couple different red dots on and off of this pistol. I was running an RMR HD on this for a long time, but I switched back to the 507 comp after a little while, and I'm pretty certain that once I put the 507 comp back on, I stripped those threads. It was literally the range session after I put this back on, so I must have ooga booga, you know, torqued it on too much. I did not use a torque wrench while I was doing that. I'm 95% certain that I stripped the threads on the plate. I got myself a new plate, and I put the dot back on, and we are good to go. So use a torque wrench, everybody. I have one, I just didn't use it that day. In conclusion, my time with the Staccato P has been way better than I expected. This gun has been amazingly reliable, amazingly durable, incredibly nice to shoot for over 10,000 rounds. Failures that I did have were induced by myself, either being an idiot or switching parts around. The 2011 pistols in general, or these types of, you know, heavy single action only pistols, I already have some more that I've got after the Staccato came in and I started shooting it a little bit. If you watch the channel, you know I also have a Dan Wesson DWX, which is a similar type of pistol to this that I shoot USPSA limited optics with. That gun is amazing. And I currently have a certain custom pistol maker building me a much more expensive and fine 2011, which will be ready for me sometime this summer. So leave your guesses in the comments as to which expensive 2011 Ben has bought. Final commentary, I just want to reinforce, if you're new to shooting or if you're looking to get into pistol shooting, I'm going to strongly recommend that you start with something basic and cheap, like a Glock or an M&P or a CZP-10 or a Walther PDP or whatever other pistols you like that are basic, reliable, simple, inexpensive. Get a red dot, get a light, and start shooting. Once you feel like you have a good foundation though, and you want to get into something a little bit nicer, if you want to retain the reliability and the kind of duty rated aspect to your pistol, but you want it to perform like a 2011 does, I can't recommend the Staccato P enough. Maybe for like a competitive shooting gun, like a dedicated limited optics pistol, maybe like the Staccato XL or like a Dan Wesson DWX would be better for you. I think that they shoot a little bit nicer and more consistently than the Staccato P, but compared to something like a Glock, the 2011 is significantly better. Those are my thoughts. Please do leave your questions, comments, and remarks in the comment section down below. Like, subscribe, do all the YouTube stuff. Thank you very much for being here, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.